Little difficulty on getting stuff going here. Let me show you. We've got the Airport Authority board is getting set up. They're going to tell us what's going on. So sorry if you were on the other stream. Hopefully I got the right title. But yeah, share it up, share it up, share it up. So as I was saying, we've got a room full. I think the parking lot's got a bunch of folks out there. I saw some tailgaters. Awesome. Actually, if you're watching, if you're a tailgater, tell me in the comments. I'm kind of curious who's out there tailgating. I do need somebody to give me a thumbs up. Type in there that you can hear me. We're going to work on this. We'll see how long it takes to get started. But we're going to do the best we can with what we got. So stand by.
Yes, ma'am.
John Welch.
Billy Billingsley.
Spencer Williams.
We have a quorum. I'd like to ask approval of the committee to approve the minutes of the prior meetings, which are June 18th, June 29th, July 20th, and August 17th. Do I have a motion? It's been approved in second. How do we vote? All those in favor say aye. Is it unanimously approved? I would like to announce that I am the new chairman of the Gadsden Airport Authority. My name is Billy Billings. Yeah. And Robert Turk will be the continue to be the vice chairman of the Gadsden Airport Authority. We're here today to approve contracts for Neil Schaefer and Younger Associates. These are associates for the FAA contracts and the economic impact. These are additional contracts that will be for the Gadsden Airport Authority. Do I have a motion to accept these? Second. It's been approved in second to approve this. All in favor say aye. It's been approved. Okay. The purpose of today's meeting is to hear presentations for possible purchase or lease of property. And I want to introduce Mr. Jim Williams, who will be announcing the ground rules for the remainder of the meeting.
Mr. Billingsley. Can everybody hear me? Thank you. On behalf of the Gadsden Airport Authority, I'm going to welcome you to today's meeting. We thank you for being here. I'm going to first introduce a few people. My name is Jim Williams. I'm one of the lawyers for the Gadsden Airport Authority. I'm at the Dentons and Cerroti Law Firm in Birmingham. My law partner sitting at the end of the table here is Robert Baugh, B-A-U-G-H. I also want to identify the other people at the table up front. Ken Gilbert is from Neil Schaefer. He's one of the consultants that will be assisting the Gadsden Airport Authority. Alan Timms is next to him, Allenthames. They're both here from Neil Schaefer. And then we also have Ms. Lana Sweet. Lana is Lana, Sweet, Suite. She's from Younger Associates. One question before we begin. We have a sign-up sheet posted outside the front door asking anybody who intended to make a proposal today to please sign up so we would have notice of who wanted to speak. I have two parties that have signed up, Christy Knowles Group and Pilgrim's Pride. Is anyone else here intending to make a presentation to the Airport Authority about this land? If so, please raise your hand or speak up. Hearing and seeing no one, we will move on. I need one representative from Pilgrim's Pride and one representative from Christy Knowles Group to please come forward. We're going to have a random drawing. What we've done is we've placed two plain white sealed envelopes inside of the bag. Inside one envelope is a piece of paper that has the number 1 written on it. Inside the other envelope is a piece of paper that has the number 2 written on it. Christy and someone from Pilgrims will each draw one of the envelopes. Whichever number you draw is the order in which you will present it.
All right, they're drawing off camera. Sorry, guys.
The Etowah Community Group, whose representative is Christy Knowles, drew number 1 and will go first. Ladies and gentlemen, please, let us get back to order. I'm going to ask Pilgrim's Pride to please, I'm going to have the Etowah Community Group go ahead and start. If there's anything you need to do to set up and get ready to go, while we do the rest of the ground rules.
Jim, do you want our group to come up on the stage that's going
No,
to
ma'am. No, ma'am.
present?
Not yet.
Okay.
If there's any setup you need to do, I want you to go ahead and do it to get your computer and whatnot ready to go. I'll remind everybody, I see a number of people in the room are not wearing masks. We announced that masks would be required. The venue posted signage on the front door indicating that. If you don't have a mask, we ask you to please put on your mask now and keep it on. Anybody who speaks during the meeting from the stage as a part of the presentation, may remove your mask while you're speaking. We also would ask you to please not disturb the seating arrangement. It's done by the venue, consistent with CDC guidelines regarding seating situations in this COVID world that we're living in, so please respect that. Today's meeting will be to hear two proposals, first from the Etowah Community Group and second from Pilgrim's Pride. In between the two presentations, there'll be a 15-minute break to allow the public a restroom break and also to allow Pilgrim's Pride people to set up anything they need to do for their presentation. As a reminder, there will be no public participation in today's meeting. That opportunity will be provided next week. We'll talk more about that before we adjourn. The presenters should discuss only their proposal for the sale or lease of the land in question. They should not comment on any other proposal that's made today. We ask and insist that the audience remain quiet and respectful during the presentations. There will be no outbursts or demonstrations of any kind. Today's meeting is being recorded, and it's also being live streamed, so people who were not present here today may be able to watch the presentations. After today's presentations conclude, the Airport Authority is planning to move into executive session to discuss the possible sale or lease of property and to discuss with its legal counsel the litigation. After the executive session, the Airport Authority does not intend to reconvene the public portion of the meeting and instead will adjourn. We have asked the two presenting parties to try to limit their proposals to an hour or less today. The first proposal will be from the Etowah Community Group, and they are now free to take the stage.
Give me 2 minutes.
Ready? Yeah. All right.
Can you hear me? Hello, my name is Michael Wildman, and I represent Advance Etowah, a nonprofit that has been formed in the wake of all that has transpired over the past 10 months here in Etowah County. We're streaming this presentation live, so we'll have it and other pertinent information on our Facebook page, YouTube channel.
Hello, my name is Michael Wildman, and I represent Advance Etowah, a nonprofit that has been formed in the wake of all that has transpired over the past 10 months here in Etowah County. We're streaming this presentation live, so we'll have it and other pertinent information on our Facebook page, YouTube channel, and advanceetowah.com/community plan. I want to take a quick second and say thank you to the Gadsden Airport Authority for this amazing opportunity to be a part of one of the most critical decisions for Etowah County in decades. But more importantly, I want to say thank you to the thousands of citizens in Etowah that will watch this presentation both now and in years to come. Thank you for coming together like you have. Thank you for being willing to have the hard conversations we have had these past months. When this all started, many of you heard Attorney Christy Knowles say, "We're not that county anymore." Our community has been on a steady decline for decades, while surrounding communities have flourished. How is that possible with the people and resources we have? The answer is choices. Choices our elected and appointed officials have made for years. Well, today, we're asking the current group of officials nominated by the mayor of the city of Gadsden and approved by the city council to the Gadsden Airport Authority to make a choice that will affect Etowah County for generations to come. This is not a choice on selling or leasing the land at the airport. This is a choice about the heart and soul of our community. Now is an opportunity to say we're not that county anymore and choose this project proposed by a small handful of the incredible and capable men and women from Etowah County. Let's take a moment and introduce this group. Etowah community represents first generation, second generation, and even third generation business owners from Etowah County. They aren't just interested in growing Gadsden, they are interested in growing our entire county. They represent hundreds of years of experience in many industries like manufacturing, online and retail sales, legal and medical services, construction, landscaping, marketing, and aviation, just to name a few. We are your neighbors, people you go to church with. Our kids and grandkids grew up or are growing up together. Some are even elected officials that truly represent the attitude and desires of the people of Etowah. Had the plans for the airport and local industrial development not been kept under lock and key, perhaps some from this group or any of the other equally capable land and business developers in Etowah County might have sought this development sooner. Let's start with two of the most important aspects of this development, and that is business and aviation knowledge. Evoque Aviation is already the largest employer at the airport with plans to grow. They have a customer base that is truly worldwide, including owners and CEOs of some of the largest companies in the US. We have business owners that rely on aviation for their own businesses. Etowah community has experience thinking at a global scale, so we understand the untapped potential of Northeast Alabama Regional Airport and the needs of larger corporations that depend on smaller regional airports to keep up with the demands of the modern day economy. We also have folks like Mayor Joe Taylor, Phil Williams, and myself that not only understand the business aspects of aviation, but also the military aspects. We have decades of knowledge of leveraging our national network of airports to train and ensure the highest level of readiness and capability of our nation's fighting force.
Currently, right now, we have over 500 employees centered between Gadsden, Birmingham, and Huntsville. But right here in Gadsden, we have a little over 200 employees. I've been doing a lot of thinking on what we can do to really instill growth in Etowah County and the surrounding areas. And I think that having an industrial park right next to the airport could not be more important. Time is a value. And a lot of these places have to have an asset like the airport because at the end of the day, they have to get places quickly. And having the access to a private airport could not be more important because we're already right next to an interstate. We're already close to multiple OEM manufacturers that produced in cars, right? So we have to have all the supplier base around here that we already have. So we're going to continue to get more in. So if anything, we should be pushing the airport as an asset to these executives and these companies as, hey, you can come here quickly, you can get in and out quickly, and it'll be a benefit to you and your company.
I think what's key to instilling business growth in Etowah County is to be able to retain our youth that are looking for first-class jobs in a first-class town, that we need to have first-class facilities, first-class jobs available. As a real estate developer and general contractor, the number one lesson that we've learned is that a proper government leadership is key and vital for a successful real estate development, and it will bolster the speed and success of a given development in a community. If we are allowed to develop this light industrial park here in Gadsden, we will be able to create jobs that will encourage younger generations to stay. What's important for me and the other pilots here at Gadsden is that the development be a positive for the airport and the aviation community.
We need jobs. That has been a tagline heard in our community for years. It is one of the main fallback justifications for some of the worst decision-making in this era. Not only is it useless rhetoric, it's simply wrong. We need better jobs. We need business development, education, and job opportunities that raise the standard of living in Etowah. Etowah community alone represents more than 150 current job openings, and we don't even need to break ground at the airport. These investors are Etowah job creators and have employed thousands of people through their centuries of combined experience. Are they as big as JBS? Of course not. But they live here, eat here, go to church here, their kids play sports here. Who do you think cares more about the standard of living in Etowah? Can we develop and attract more light industry? Of course. Choice Fabricator, Stamped Products, and Rusty's Off-Road have done it for decades.
Rusty's Off-Road is a light industrial manufacturer. We've been in Etowah County since 2001, and we currently employ 20 people. We believe with this proposal that many other businesses similar to what we do could be brought here. The more we invest, the more we hire, we're bringing more tax dollars. So that's bringing the city more money. It's a win-win for everybody.
Please understand that this development group is not just playing games. We're extremely serious about this project and truly understand what this means for our community's future. The notion that this is just a group making a land grab to flip land and make a quick buck is preposterous. They all know much less drama-filled ways to make a profit. We aren't that county anymore, and we want to give you a glimpse of what our community can be. We live in a beautiful area full of incredible people that can do incredible things if we continue to work together, demand more from our leaders, and make better choices. Let's start with choosing Etowah Community.
We're going to do a highlight. I'll try to talk loud. If you still can't hear, just raise your hand. I'll back off. But in the booklets that we have given each of you information. Stamped Products Incorporated, and we are located in the East Gadsden Industrial Park. Today, across this county, speaking as one voice can accomplish in a short amount of time. This group is comprised of what you're going to hear some of the same things that you just heard in the video. They're comprised of the following makeup of businesses: manufacturing, construction, commercial, as well as residential developments, retail, there you go, aviation, doctors, financial, accounting, staffing, civil engineering, electrical, logistics, transportation, legal, product distribution, and online marketing, and others. Quite a cross-reference of talent within this large pool. local individuals. Many are second and third generation. These are the people that live here, like you. They've invested their time and money in our communities, through our churches, our schools, our civic and charitable organizations, arts, theaters, and in addition to supplying jobs and opportunities to excess of 1,000 people. As was stated earlier, we also at the present time have openings over 170 job openings today. We did not fly in here today in our jet to attend this meeting. Neither will we fly out of here back to Colorado or some other state or country when it's over. Instead, we will drive back to our local plants and offices, and we'll be working beside our employees that are known as your family and friends. First slide. This is our artist rendering of the Citizens Business Park. Trent, Thrasher, and Jonathan McCormick will go into more detail later. I want to point out a couple of things as we walk through this. Of course, on the left of the slide, you'll see the list, the current list of individuals and companies that are involved in this project. When we look at this, we're not only utilizing one of the prized assets of this county, but we're enhancing it. We will enhance this property to its fullest potential. We will not require rezoning. We will be within the FAA guidelines. And we will not have an impact on our military exercises. But most importantly, we will not be a negative impact on the current land values and quality of life. And I'll pause there a second. But I started out saying today that I was with Stamp Products of the East Gadsden Industrial Park. Well, I'm also, my wife and I are a 32-year home and landowner, less than a mile and a half from this project. The Etowah Realtors Association have provided actual data that states that property values will decrease if the rendering plant is allowed to locate in Etowah County. If property values decrease, so does the income from the property taxes. Who in their right mind thinks this is a good deal? For 60, 70, 90 jobs, whatever it may be, will not offset that loss. This week, the Gadsden Times quoted Mayor Guyton stating at a ribbon cutting at a new road just behind this facility here, as property values rise, so does revenue from existing ad valorem taxes, and these funds are reinvested into the TIF district for infrastructure improvements and economic development. Only if the values stay or increase, but that's not what's going to happen. Pilgrim's Pride claims that their investment will increase the value of the land. It will the 88 acres, therefore increasing the property tax revenue. And of course, that's after any 10-year exemption or any other thing that's worked out. But at the same time, all the other properties in the county decrease due to their presence. On the other hand, our investment on the same property will increase the value without affecting the properties of our citizens here in Etowah County. To me, I call that a win-win. Our proposal takes into consideration the plan that, let me go to the next slide. This is just an overview of the various things that would fit into the park, that will be fitting into the park, I should say. Some already lined up. Our proposal takes into consideration the plan that David Hooks presented to the City Council. And I understand a couple of you on this board are associated with the IDA, so I'm sure you're familiar with this. Next slide. As you can see, there has been 6 industry segments that have been identified as priorities. Next slide. For this 88 acres, Mr. Hooks has decided it has been selected, leaving out the other 5. So the possibilities of one plant, 60, 70, 90 jobs, tops. But the Etowah Community Plan allows, next slide, go to the next. You put 5 of the 6 priorities on the same property, the same 88 acres. And in doing so, these 5 IDA properties can and will coexist. There is no coexist with the other offers, but they can coexist in the same park. And I'm sure many of us in this room have actually seen hands-on examples of that, and right here within our own state. Imagine the skill sets that one of the individuals talked about, of bringing that up in the skill levels or whatever, that comes with these 5. And not only that, it's not just one skill set, but there's a discipline for each one of these. So it makes it opportunities for those to either come here or stay here. In addition to the IDA plan, we've incorporated, we'll go one more slide. What was expressed by Mr. Hooks in a meeting in May of 2020, which I was a part of this group, and you can read the names at the top of the other folks that were involved at that meeting in his office. And these are some of the things that were discussed. I can't see them from here, but I do remember one I totally agreed with. I do think that all of Etowah County should be a part of working with and funding with this IDA. So I'll stand up and say that. But I specifically, sitting there with, I think, John Freeman, I specifically asked, what can we do as this group to assist you to be successful in your job? Next slide. That is where he stated about spec buildings and the need of that spec building. He says, currently there is little to no buildings available that can be offered, and they get many inquiries for this type of size. He went on to say that he wanted to focus on the family-owned businesses and stay away from, not giving up hope on a large corp, but let the mega site handle that and stay with the smaller family-owned businesses. In the end, I think there's no doubt we bring that to this offer, to this proposal. You'll see that during Trent's portion, I believe it is, he will respond to where he needs these buildings, and he'll show you the buildings and give you the various sizes that we're looking at. And as far as the inquiries being filled as well, we should never want in this county, state, anybody's county, state, city, would want inquiries coming in that you could at least have something to offer. I understand you have to have this, and I agree. This plan, it does exactly that. It opens it up on a year. If you remember in his presentation to council, he put a video of Jasper, Alabama on there. And I think if I remember right, and went back and looked at that, he worked that, I think, with the Alabama Power. They have a program that you can work with on putting loans together to do spec buildings. It's what you got to have in this country. A lot of times when people come to look, when they say they're looking to move a business, 9 times out of 10 they're ready to move. So you got to be able to react and react fast. So I think that puts us in a great position to do that. When you look at our plan and the things that we're offering, we hit 5 out of the 6 IDA priorities. Next slide. This slide here, part of the checklist that we have is doing financials. Are we even able to come through with this. We have worked with the Small Business Development Center of Alabama, which I'm sure many of you have probably either dealt with or familiar with, but they are there to assist small businesses, towns, city communities, economic developments. They take on all types of projects. So we had them to tell us what we needed to supply them to give us, which is included, the complete breakdown is in your folders, of what our current group is capable of doing at a conservative estimate, which is $111 million. And then up to the left over there, you'll see the impact, which is just an overview of the impact. But if the impact of 375 jobs in the park, which is very, very conservative, for 88 acres, you look at it, we've already got 2 plants one within feet and one within less than a quarter of a mile that has that many or more in their plants right now, each. But it also gives you the feedback of the total of the city of Gadsden and the county in revenue. So next. Of course, mainly this is in response because Mr. Mark was very concerned that we wouldn't be able to do this. So I just want to show this slide so that this was in his letter to you guys. So just to make sure that those concerns are taken care of. So I think that right there speaks within itself what his concern was. This group can handle it, will handle it, or we're certainly going to handle it. It's not a problem. Also, he talked about our financials not being public through this service here. We don't have to go public, but at the same time, just recently, I'm sure you're all aware that Pilgrim's Pride is, or JBS is looking at buying them totally back and putting them in the private sector as well, or putting them private. So I don't know how much longer that information will be available as well, which it doesn't matter to me if their information is available or not. I think that's the last slide, I believe. Is that right, Christy? Gentlemen, you're in a unique position right now. Truth is, once in a lifetime. Your decision is going to have an effect on generations to come. And that's serious. Now, I'm getting to that age, I think about my kids, my grandkids, and, what am I doing? And how do we set them up? What can I do to assist them for a better life, better quality of life, and all those things? This is a serious, serious decision that's in front of you. We're asking that the Northeast Alabama Regional Airport, that you take on the task of making it the shining star. It deserves it. Its location, where it's at, what it's capable of doing. And with the right vision, and just talking and throwing out, all visions are not accomplished. Sometimes you talk about, we sit in a room, we throw out crazy ideas, but 1 or 2 is the thing going, wow, that's what it's going to take for this. And then, yes, it takes money and those things. Get us involved. You've got us involved now. We're more than happy to be involved. Just like I told David Hooks, no one from the IDA has visited my company in years. I keep spending money over there. The last presses we brought were in excess of $3 million. I can say the same thing to David and some of the others, which he spent a lot more. Ask us to get involved, be a part of it. We will help in those. We don't have all the answers. And some of the things we do is wrong, but we learn from our mistakes. Because the risk we take, it affects us personally. It can either take us down or take us forward. But to me, the most important thing to me in making decisions in my job day is how does it affect my people? Those people that work in our plants, they're the reason that we do the things we do. And we are accomplishing the things we accomplish. And we've got people from all over this county working for us and probably a couple other counties. And in the past, My family business had a lot of different ones. Now today, we're down to one company. But we still believe that we have to train and we have to recognize the people for who they are and what they are and help them through even family crisis if that's what it takes. You've got an opportunity today to listen to both of these things, to sit down and really evaluate this. And like I said, make this airport the shining star. Don't do anything to downgrade that airport because it is one of the most valuable assets in this county. As far as that goes, since it's Northeast Regional in this Northeast region, Alabama. Make it the shining star, one that others have only dreamt up. Thank you.
Trent Thrasher Construction has been an industry leader in the commercial and industrial construction for over 28 years. We are exceptionally experienced in all areas of construction, from design, site preparation, concrete padding, and maintenance. We have constructed restaurants, churches, barns, aircraft hangars, garages, shops, warehouses, fitness centers, and so much more. These shown are only a few local industries constructed by our company in the past years. Although these businesses shown are local to our home area, we have broken ground on hundreds of sites throughout the United States in over 20 states. For decades, we have prided ourselves with superior workmanship and competitive prices to make sure that our customers are satisfied during the entire process. At Trent Thrasher Construction, we're here to serve you and to build inspiring spaces.
Okay. Hey, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank the Gadsden Airport Authority for having us meet today. For those who don't know, I was born and raised in Etowah County. I grew up right down the road. In my early 20s, I started Trent Thrasher Construction. I bought my first piece of commercial real estate property in Etowah, Alabama. About 28 years ago, developed it into an industrial park today. One of my first businesses that planted roots there is still there today. Ran by second generation. Trent Thrasher Construction has built over 300 properties and businesses in Etowah County. That includes the churches that you attend, the restaurants that you eat in, the doctor's offices that you visit, the retails that you shop at, and the warehouses that you may work, or the industrial plants that you may see. We have completed projects in 45 of the 67 counties in Alabama. Several projects, even the ones that you might know as Orange Beach, Alabama, which we have developed over 100 projects in. Although it has kept us busy in Alabama, we have completed projects. My men and I have from South Florida for Florida Power to upstate New York for the railroad. From the East Coast to the West Coast, we have worked in the foothills of Nevada for the mining company. We built many offices in Arizona. We built many projects in Texas. We have built in over 26 states. That's right, 26 states. A little company from East Gadsden, Alabama. Whew. Just give me a minute. It's dear to my heart. For those at the Gadsden Airport that might not know this, I've been working at the Gadsden Airport since the late 90s. I built to what's known today as Etowah Aviation. I And today, we still maintain the maintenance at the Gadsden Airport. And the facility is a hangar for fixing. So I don't know if that's a shock to y'all, but we have been working out there for many years. My background in developing properties and experience I have working at the airport makes me the ideal candidate to oversee Citizens Park. All right, Michael. Our proposed plan starts off with phase 1. It's 13 buildings with 90,000 square foot to include 1,000, I know y'all are going to get this is going to be crazy, but a child care facility. Because of what we have planned, everybody needs child care. We've even been working with a local daycare to help with special needs in this new daycare that will be located at the down corner. I can't see this from here. But anyway, it will be located on the property. Also, we'll be building 2 20,000 square foot spec buildings to get started with. 9 remaining buildings have already had commitments to tenants. That's right, 9 buildings. Phase 2 will consist of 10 buildings, a total of 186,000 square foot. It will also include a commercial center that will be used for community events like job fairs, charity events, associated parties, and so on. The 9 hangars that are up on the top will also be included. The 4 hangars will be used for multi-plane owners. 4 hangars will be used for private owners that we desperately need now. That I know that I've had 2 people come to me in the last year wanting to locate planes at the Gadsden Airport with there's no room. Matter of fact, I got a phone call from the guy at the airport with a new people coming. They needed a building and pack their parachutes in. So these buildings are desperately needed at the airport. I think I've worked with Gadsden for years trying to develop and build airport hangars. And those that don't know, we have completed a lot of projects in Jacksonville, Florida, for the airports. So I'm very familiar with airports, hangars, and so on. Let me get back to mine. And one of the buildings that we'll be doing will be the new location for Jonathan's business, Etowah Aviation. That will be in phase 2. All right, let's go to phase 3. Phase 3 will have 11 buildings, totaling 460,000 square feet. 4 spec buildings with 7 committed tenants. Yes, 7 committed tenants. That's huge for our company. We have 7. Like Harold spoke about earlier, I've been in business for 28 years. The IDA in Gadsden has never stepped foot in my office, never. You would think that a person that has just finished a project in Etowah, Alabama, 207,000 square feet, would step a foot in my office, but they haven't. That's very disappointing that our city can't work together. Are we on phase 3? Yes, phase 3. This will include, with all buildings totaling, 34 buildings from phase 1 through 3. That's a total of 736,000 square feet. That some of them will be 30 to 50,000 square feet. And that's needed today, in today's society. I have many phone calls every day needing to locate someone. Also, most of you might know, but when we had the fire at Gadsden Warehouse, we had nowhere to locate him. We looked from LC, the IDA didn't work with us. So we had to look for other alternatives. And Gadsden didn't have any location for us to go. So we ended up working out some spaces and getting that worked out. So what this will do, phase 1 through 3, we'll have 34 business licenses. That's right, 34 business licenses. I know Harold spoke about 375 jobs. That's huge. I think Cobra's Pride has said something about 90 at tops. And we're talking about good jobs. I've worked for many companies, for the space company. We built one of the buildings for the space shuttle many years ago to develop parts. So I'm very familiar. We've also been working with some of the bigger name companies to bring other companies to this region. Once we're approved with phase 1, we'll begin within 90 days. With 100% of our labor being from Etowah County, and anything that we can buy here will be bought in Etowah County. So 100% of our labor, that means from our subcontractors to our men in the office, to anything that we can buy will be brought back to our community. So I don't know if many people know this, but with me working in many states all over the United States, all my guys are local. So when they're working in West Virginia, they're sending their money home to their kids, their wife, to buy stuff, to buy school, to send them to school. I don't know how many of y'all know that, but that's huge, bringing money back to our county and not taking it out. I know that, Mark Glover's here today to present, but they'll be taking their profits out of here, having a big old glass of red wine with a big old cigar in Greenlee, Colorado, while we sit here and try to put our city back together. I'm here with as many of my friends with Etowah to help our county grow. Please help me continue this. That's all I have.
You can breathe now, brother.
Just move this thing down a little bit. First off, I want to say this is awesome to see this community out here, and I want to thank you before I start talking about what's going on at the airport. But even more exciting than that is the fact that you've all taken time away from your jobs and your families and everything else that you're doing to come here and look at our presentation. So I want to thank you for that to start off with. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Jonathan McCormick. And I'm going to be talking about what's already located at the Gadsden Airport and the benefits that our development would have on these businesses. I currently own Evoke Aviation and Plane Schemer located on the south end of the airport. We are closest to the proposed development and have a lot to lose. We've got a lot at stake. I started both my companies and have dedicated my life to understanding the aviation industry and its needs. I feel incredibly proud and very excited to be standing here today alongside some of the most successful business leaders in our community, presenting to you the most impactful moment this airport has seen since it was awarded to Gadsden City after World War II. My company and many others who already call the Gadsden Airport home have the most at stake. Evoke Aviation has grown from 1 employee in 2016 to 18 employees today. With currently over a 2-year waiting list, we are looking to hire more technicians and expand our footprint. Thanks to such an incredibly talented local labor force, we continue to grow. The addition of the Evoke Jet Center, as proposed in this development, would triple our number of employees and significantly increase our revenues. But that's just the start. Alongside my business, there are several unsung heroes already located at the Gadsden Airport. Code 1 Aviation and Fighter Maintenance Contracting both maintain the largest fleet of L-39s in the country and perform heavy maintenance and modifications on other privately owned military contract aircraft. These companies take full advantage of Gadsden's long intersecting runways and bird-free airspace for flight testing and training. Another shining star of the Gadsden Airport is Coalfield Aviation. Coalfield Aviation averages 10 to 12 active student pilots. These future pilots live local and are working toward earning their licenses and instrument ratings at the Gadsden Airport. This is a crucial aspect of future growth. Whether it's training aircraft enthusiasts or training students who want a flying career, these are future aircraft owners who will one day base their aircraft at the Gadsden Airport. They'll need both aircraft storage and supporting maintenance and training support. After the training aircraft is tucked away for the evening, you're likely to see a beautiful vintage aircraft flying over Gadsden. These are likely aircraft owned by Trey and Eddie Pierman, who own and operate the Warbird South Flying Museum. They've already requested property and stated their intentions to this board as their museum continues to grow. Their museum will undoubtedly plant seeds of inspiration for our next generation of pilots. Gadsden's airport is one of the most underrated resources this city has, and our proposal will change that. The airport's intersecting 6,800 and 4,800 foot runways give the airport ease of access for almost any aircraft type. Its central location between Huntsville, Birmingham, and Atlanta give us a geographic advantage and easy access for private and corporate aircraft. It is located very close to hotels, restaurants, and attractions. With the work this city has put into bringing tourism to Gadsden, we're doing this community and our tourism board a huge disservice by overlooking this gateway to our city. We are perfectly poised for future growth, and the timing couldn't be any better. The pandemic has created exponential growth in the private aviation sector. A need for businesses to move people and product is higher than ever, but airlines are no longer seen as a dependable mode of transportation. Because of this, many aircraft manufacturers have seen over a 200% increase in aircraft sales over the last year, further supporting that this property is more valuable than ever and should not be used in a manner that does not support the airport. So what's in it for the airport in the long term? In addition to an increase in fuel sales and revenue, an increase in aircraft traffic will also drive higher levels of federal grant funding to better support and maintain the airport, giving the airport long-term benefits surpassing the initial purchase of the property. Additionally, our development proposal only includes light industry that would fall under I-1 zoning, and with a keen focus on the aerospace industry, safety will be at the heart of every decision. After strong recommendation from the FAA and reinforced by Congressman Adderholt, a rendering plan is seen as a wildlife attractive and endangered aviation. Our proposal, above all else, will ensure a safe environment for our pilots, their families, and our National Guard unit. Additional revenue will provide funding to revitalize our FBO and ensure our airport has the necessary budget to maintain and actually pass its DOT inspections. I truly believe that the events that brought us together have happened for a reason. You've already seen what this group of business leaders is capable of doing in our community, entrepreneurs who have dedicated their life to making their dreamt up ideas a reality. This decision will seal the fate of the airport for generations and set a precedent for the future. Will you choose to breathe life into this airport or take it away? Put politics aside and let's make this dream a reality. Thank you. Appreciate your time.
I'm Joe Taylor. I'm the mayor of Rainbow City. I'm here to support Etowah County and the Etowah County community that's going to go out and change the way we do business, to bring it back home so that we can take care of our own. I don't think that this is something that we can continue to push to the side. It's time for us to get into the middle, get into the fight, and take care of our county. I believe that this is an incredible opportunity for us to rise up and say that we care about where we live. And that's what we plan to do.
Hi, I'm Mayor Dana Snyder with the City of Southside. I would like to express my support of the community plan for the light industrial park at the Gadsden Airport. Advancements in this area are key to the betterment of our towns and cities and the prosperity of our citizens.
Hello, I'm Joey Statham, Commissioner here at Etowah County District 1. I'm also an agent for Copperleaf Properties here in Rainbow City. I am completely against the rendering plant in Rainbow City. I believe it has a negative effect not only on the county but also the housing industry. I would appreciate every one of you to get on board and continue to stay on board, and let's fight against this rendering plant coming to our airport and coming to Etowah County.
Hey everybody, my name is Craig Lipscomb and I'm State Representative for District 30. And I'm just here today to express my support to you and to my community, to the people who I serve in District 30 who may have a negative impact due to the potential for this rendering plant coming in such close proximity to our homes and our businesses. It concerns me because it concerns you. I don't want this sort of environment where we have to be concerned about the livelihood of our people, the health and safety and welfare of the people who I represent. I want a place where we can just live our lives day to day. I feel very confident that this Friday, when we get together and we make our proposal to the Airport Authority, that we will be presenting to them something that will be beneficial not only to us, but really beneficial to the community at large. I know that it's going to do great things for our area. I've dug in deep with the people who are involved with this process, and I'm very excited. And just know that I'm there for you, know that I'm here to support you and to represent you the best way that I can.
Hi, my name is Jeff Prince, and I am the City Council Member, Place 3 from Rainbow City, and also Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Rainbow City. I can honestly say that our city in Rainbow City has already lost one potential industry to this rendering plant, which has cost us between 60 to 100 jobs. Etowah County is the smallest landmass county in the state of Alabama. 100+ trucks a day coming into this area would have a very negative impact on the infrastructure for our county. Also, having 3 schools located within 2 miles from this plant, I just do not see why this is a good idea for anyone.
Hello, my name is Craig Enzer Jr. As a local business owner and County Commissioner of District 6, I'd like to express my support for the community plan and light industrial development at the airport, along with my continued opposition to the rendering plan.
Hello, I'm Tim Ramsey, Etowah County Commissioner, District 4. I'd like to go on record as saying that I reject putting a rendering plant at our airport in that area. I am behind the movement of the people, the taxpayers who fund the airport, and saying that they want things that are aviation related at our airport. I completely agree with that. And again, I reject the idea of putting a rendering plant on that small piece of property.
I'm Clark Hopper. I'm a councilman in Rainbow City. And I'm against the rendering plant because I worry about everybody in Etowah County. I worry about the economical development that this could stagnate and keep from coming to our county with the rendering plant, just the stigma of having a rendering plant in our area. And I would like to see this plant stopped, not only for the citizens of Rainbow City, but for all the citizens of Etowah County.
I'm Jamie Grant, Etowah County District 3 Commissioner, and I'm here to show my support for Etowah community and their chance to buy the property at the airport. And I'm just here to let them know that I think the Airport Authority should listen to their proposal and let the owners here have their chance to grow Etowah County like they have in the past.
I'm Andrew Jones, State Senator for District 10, which includes Etowah, Cherokee, and DeKalb counties. Today we're here to promote the community plan for Etowah County, something that's going to take us not into the past, but into the future. It's important that we focus on recruiting and training workers for the jobs of the future, and that's what this plan is all about, in my opinion. People have the opportunity to look at 2 distinctly different plans, one that's focused on taking us backward and one that's focused on moving us forward. And I know the people are behind that. I've never seen such an outpouring of support from so many people over an issue like this. And I call on the Airport Authority to do the right thing, listen to the people, and let's take a step forward and move in the right direction for the future of this county.
My name is Jamison Jenkins, and I represent the City of Rainbow City as a council member in Place 4. I'm here today to talk about our cities and our counties coming together. Throughout this entire time, all we've seen is divisiveness, and we've talked about what's best for one city as opposed to another. We know without a doubt that the location of this proposed rendering plant is not good for us. We have 3 schools in close proximity, a multi-million-dollar sports complex with a brand new road that we just spent years developing. Our neighbors have come together as one. Our cities have come together as one. Our citizens are united, and it's clear. It's time for our elected officials and all those that are in control, including those who work for Pilgrim's Pride, to come together and do what we know is best for our fellow man. It really is that simple.
Hello, my name is David GA allowing us to come for our presentation today. I'd like to start off, first of all, as we conclude this presentation, I'd like to take the last few minutes of our time to talk about some things that I think is imperative for you as a board to consider while making this decision. that will affect the future of our county for generations to come, has already been previously outlined. The first is leadership. Leadership is defined as the action of leading a group of people or an organization. I see leadership as the single largest problem that we have in Etowah County. And the lack of leadership has been instrumental in allowing us to be in the situation we are today. The group that is here today is representing thousands of Etowah County residents, people from all districts, all demographics, all walks of life, simply because we feel our leaders have failed us. As this process has played out for over 10 months, we as citizens have been shut out of the process to which we have been an instrumental part of. Not only have we been shut out, but we've been threatened, intimidated, called the mob, and from officials we elected to carry out the will of the people. Let's all remember, we do not go looking for this fight. This fight was brought to our doorstep by a small group of officials, that some of whom are not even elected officials, and also clearly others with conflict of interests. They have gone completely against the will of the people, and in the process have shown an utter and complete lack of transparency. These actions are not a show of leadership, but a clear show of dictatorship. This is not who we want to be as a county anymore. Secondly, let's examine the company these officials invited into our county and community. JBS Pilgrim's Pride is a company that has paid billions of dollars in fines. And yes, that is a B for billions. These fines include environmental fines, bribery, corruption, price fixing, just to name a few. In addition to these fines, some of these actions have risen to the criminal level. Some JBS top executives have pled guilty, and along with corrupt politicians they bribed, have served jail time for their business practices. There are also, as today, 6 Pilgrim Pride executives from their corporate office in Greeley, Colorado, that are currently under indictment for the same type business practices. Knowing the record of a company like this, I ask the question, why our mayor and IDA director ever took the phone call. I know they're going to stand up here in a few moments and address this board and the community today and make many, many promises about what an exceptional corporate citizen they are in every aspect of business, when in reality, they have never built nor operated this supposed state-of-the-art facility they keep telling us about. And unfortunately, as the old saying goes, actions speak louder than words. We should have taken the lead. We should have clearly taken the lead from our neighbors in Franklin County, Georgia. Their leaders recognized the situation for what it was and rejected Pilgrim's Pride rendering plant in less than 90 days. Once it was known to the public. We now are at 10 months and numerous lawsuits later. But now let's talk about where we want to be and where we want to go. This group, along with Advanced Etowah, has heard from literally thousands of Etowah County residents over the last 10 months, asking the question, who do we want to be? And we listened. We want to be a county that has transparent leaders. No more misleading the public, leaders who lead by the will, want to be led by the will of the people, leaders who are qualified, keyword, qualified for the work that they are doing. If you accept an appointment to a board, have an understanding of the qualifications necessary to be on that active board. No more of the good old boy network. Appointments no longer can be based on who your friends are, who your relatives are, or anything else. It must be based on your qualifications. We must elect leaders that will fulfill these basic obligations to public during the next election cycle. I know many of our current leaders have and will continue to spin this Etowah community proposal as a land grab, a group that lacks the resources, lacks the capital funding, is a few people trying to make money, and the list goes on and on. But let me be clear. We are here to stop and provide an alternative to the rendering plant. That's simple. That is first and foremost what this proposal is. We are fine if the GA and the authority decide not to sell the land to anyone at this time. We are simply presenting you with a clear opportunity and an improvement in our vision and motivation to stop this rendering plant from being built in Etowah County. However, make no mistake that this is an exemplary and extraordinary successful group of business leaders throughout this county that have the knowledge, the capital investment, the funding and vision to make this project successful if we're chosen so. And it has been made abundantly clear that the 30 of us involved in this proposal today is merely the tip of the iceberg. Within our community, we find many, many leaders of business and every other facet of industry and life. We simply need leaders who recognize that and that we can accomplish together as a group, no enemies, no adversaries, as true partners. In doing so, we can right this ship and be poised to be innovative county we want to be. We are simply asking the authority to step up. Please be the leaders our county is looking for. Be the hero of the thousands of Etowah County citizens by saying no to Pilgrim's Pride rendering plant. Just as over 10,000 of your neighbors, your friends, and your fellow citizens have already done so. This group includes numerous state and local politicians that you saw previously on the slides, but I would also like to make a special thanks to State Representative Craig Lipscomb, State Senator Andrew Jones, and United States Representative Robert Adderholt. These leaders have been instrumental in working with our state and federal agencies to help ensure our quality of life is maintained and that our airport can and be used safely and does not become an animal attractant. And I'd also like to say a heartfelt, truly heartfelt thank you to everyone in this opposition group. You have been truly amazing, and I could not be prouder to be part of a group. Most of us didn't even know each other before this fight began, but I have truly learned the meaning and expression of we the people from all of you. As I close, I'm sure every one of you knows, has written about me and all the stuff that's been said. Yes, I'm an Alabama fan. So I'll close with a quote from Nick Saban that I'd like each one of you to please think of prior to casting your vote. Leadership is our willingness to help someone else for their benefit. Leading people for your benefit is simply manipulation. I thank you for your time. Does that conclude y'all's presentation?
Mr. Chapter confirmed that concludes the presentation for Etowah community. We will take a break and reconvene at 1:30. Thank you.
I wish. I don't have to work so hard. Appreciate y'all.
Hey,
Go do a radio.
Yeah, love you,
Yes, he said quiet.
Yeah, and that's what Phil just said.
I had Chrissy's ready. Are you okay? I'm not doing it. Good job. I was a little worried about the time, but y'all killed it. Here we go.
All right, guys, y'all hang in there. I think we should be getting started here in just a few minutes.
It's 1:30, so we're going to proceed with the presentation from the Pilgrims Committee.
Hang out with you.
Good afternoon. I can't tell you how excited I am to go after that presentation. Imagine how excited I am even. I am Kathy Sickert. I am an attorney with the law firm Smith, Gambrill & Russell, and I represent Pilgrim's Pride, along with Chris Hamer, who's sitting here in the front row, and Mark Glover from Pilgrims is in fact here as well. Mr. Billingsley, members of the authority, I thank you also for this opportunity to present. Mr. Gilbert, Mr. Thames, Ms. Sweet, I don't envy you your position at all, but thank you also for your attention. And I very much appreciate that although most of the audience left, some of you stayed. And I think that's a healthy attitude too, because there are always two sides to every story, and what I would like to do is to acquaint you with the other side of the story. And let me begin by saying this: I don't doubt for a moment the sincerity of the opposition to this application. I don't doubt that you folks are committed to stopping this plan, obviously, and I don't doubt that you're sincere in being concerned about it. But I do believe that those concerns may be misplaced, and that's what I want to try to do today in terms of trying to show you exactly what this plan would be. It was also important to me from a personal perspective to be able to come up here and tell you what I was telling you based on my own understanding of how these plans work. I, like you, hear the word rendering and sort of go, ugh. So I took it upon myself, before I agreed even to make this presentation, to go visit rendering plants in a variety of locations to see what they were like. And last Friday, I took my 27-year-old daughter, who is an abject environmentalist, with me on a road trip to Ward, South Carolina. I visited two plants. Neither of them were Pilgrim's Pride plants. The GPS took me first to a rendering plant for the SC Pet company. That is a company which uses the inside of its plant the same technology which will be used by Pilgrims on the inside of its plant here. And what I was interested in seeing is not, or smelling more precisely, is not just how it looked or how it was operating, but actually going and smelling what I could to see if I could have any indication of what this kind of thing functioned like. We got all the way into the employee parking lot, right in front of the building, and both of us got out of the car and honestly stood in the parking lot sniffing. I felt a little bit idiotic, but that's what we did. And we did smell, and I don't know if if I'd even call it an odor, but what we smelled is like when you open a bag of cat food. I'd say dog food, but I have cats. And it's a distinct aroma, if you will. But it was not overwhelming, and it was not offensive, and it was not discernible more than 100 yards from the plant. We also stopped and smelled trucks that had been cleaned after they had in fact deposited materials into the plant. They don't teach you in law school that you'll be smelling the backs of clean chicken trucks, but there we were. And there again was no discernible odor. So I thought, okay, this may not be as bad as people are expecting. And I then went to the second plant. And that was a plant which, before I got off the main road, I could smell. And it was awful. It was a competitor, and I'm not going to name names, but it was an older plant. It was obvious that technology was completely different. It had different doors in terms of where they deliver the offal to. It had big smokestacks with stuff coming out of the smokestacks, and it was hard even getting out of the car at that plant. And I suddenly understood that's what you think we are bringing here. The point is well taken that to this point in time, technology at Pilgrims is not what we are putting in this particular plant. So the next trip I made, and this one I took Mr. Hammer with me, was last Tuesday. I flew to Virginia and went to one of our plants there, which has been retrofitted with the kind of technology that we're using here. They put us in hard hats. I really wanted to keep mine. They wouldn't let me. We went through the entire plant from start to finish, from where there is drop-off of the material to where it goes next, where it is dumped into, how it goes through the plant, to the end where you were able to feel the finished product. It was hot because of the machinery that was operating, but again, it was not malodorous. And I then went outside the plant to see what was happening in reference to water containment on site and the like. Went up to the water sewer treatment facility, and if you got right up into it, it did not smell good. But once you came down the stairs from the parking lot, you could not smell it. I looked at their stormwater lagoon, which is where after trucks are cleaned and just generally held, if there's a stormwater event that might hit those trucks and run onto the concrete, the water is collected and then put back through the water treatment plant. It was a bilious green color, but it did not smell. And once again, I felt comfortable in telling you that the technology that we intend to put into this particular plant is truly, everybody's been making fun of the word state-of-the-art, but it truly is a state-of-the-art facility. So with that, by way of personal background, Kathy, could you please hit slide 1? This is a general overview. We are willing to pay, of course, $1.5 million to purchase 85 acres of land. We discovered after the survey was finished that although everybody's been assuming 88 is necessary, it is not. But we will stick with the price that we are willing to offer on the 85 acres. And please also understand that of that 85 acres that we are paying for, the plant itself will only occupy approximately 12.5 acres. And I'll talk about the location later. As an alternative, if it works better for the authority, we are perfectly willing to lease this property from you as well. The offer that we have made is $65,000 a year for a 30-year ground lease. I looked at your charter, and I think maybe your ground leases may be limited to 20 years, in which case we would have to revise that, obviously, but we are perfectly willing to enter into an agreement in that format as well. And as I understand it, that might be better for the airport as a whole, since a lease payment on a monthly or quarterly basis actually allows you to use that money to put back into the airport. Whereas if it is a payment of a lump sum to buy the property, that maybe has to go into a capital expenditure fund only. That's entirely your decision. We are perfectly willing to do it either way. So now we'll go through the technology, how this actually will fit in, and the guaranteed product that we are offering. Next slide, please. It is absolutely true that the initial investment is $73 million at a minimum. And that is an investment with millions annually in local spending. It is 100 construction jobs. We know that because we build these plants. It is a minimum of 90 jobs. If we ever expand lines in the plant, the employment would expand as well. We do have on-site water treatment with our own testing lab. We are willing to donate to the city sufficient land to improve the sewer system that is currently serving this area, and the donation of that land will enable an upgrade to the sewer system, which will benefit all of the folks who want to develop in this industrial area. I'll talk a little bit more about our personnel benefits later, but I do want to point out that in terms of overall benefit, more than $1 million will be paid in taxes and license fees in the first year of operation, and more than $6 million paid in the first 6 years. $4.1 million of that goes to the local school system. And that's assuming an incentive which has not been worked out. That would have to be something we would have to work with the IDA on. There has been no agreement in that regard, but that assumes it. So that's the benefit even with that kind of an incentive. The average wage of hourly employees is in excess of $20. In actuality, as we put in our bid package that we delivered to y'all, and I've got an extra copy there for you, it is in excess of $22 per hour. And contrary to what you have read, that is not including managerial salaries. That is strictly our hourly paid employees. And we believe, particularly in light of what happened at Hampsville a couple of weeks ago, unfortunately, that this kind of a plant is absolutely essential for the continued success of the poultry industry, not just in Etowah County, but in the state of Alabama as a whole. And I'll talk about that in greater detail as well. Next slide, please. This is the end product of what we produce, and I actually, in this visit Tuesday, was able to hold this in my hand, was able to understand what it felt like, was able to smell it. They are both powders, which are produced at the end of the rendering process, and it is those powders that can then get put into either an animal food or a feeding food. Some of these powders go back into feeding chickens in the industry, so that is where they end up. Some of our suppliers, Kathy, next slide, are those. Some will be, I'm sure, familiar to you. And the next issue I would like to talk to you about is the permits that we need, have obtained, or are in the process of obtaining. Next slide, please. First, we have a request for our Form 7460 from the FAA, which I'm sure you all will be most interested in following, and I'm going to save that to discuss it. It's in this order on the slide, but given events that transpired yesterday, I will come back to that one. We have already obtained our air permit from ADAM, and I will interrupt briefly to put one myth to rest, and that is that when we applied for the ADAM air permit, allegedly we represented that we owned the property. We did not. We signed as the future permit holder who would operate the plant, and I will share that document with you in a moment. We were in the process of obtaining our water permit. There is sufficient capacity available, but the water board decided to wait until we were closer to construction to see what that allocation would be. Again, in conjunction with that application, we never represented we owned the land. We don't own this land. Let me be perfectly clear with that, which I think you all are fully aware of. You all, well, not personally, but the airport authority owns this property. And of course, we will get all necessary permits before we operate it, including, if necessary, rezoning by the city of Gadsden, assuming that they are willing to rezone the property. The next page actually shows you where those documents were signed by Mark Glover and indicate that, as I said, there was no representation as to ownership of the property when we executed those signs. So, let me go back to FAA. Next slide, please. Actually need to thank Congressman Atterhole. We filed our bid as per your rules, a complete packet of everything you had asked for in writing before 12 o'clock Wednesday, as was set forth on your rules and regulations with regard to making this bid. 1 minute after the deadline closed, Congressman Atterhole released a press release which contained what is now, I think, very familiar to all of you, a letter from the FAA purporting to say that we could not build at this location. That is absolutely false, and I will explain why in a moment. But they took it, I don't mean that, Congressman Etowah took it a step further and said that in fact our permits have already been terminated and that we will not be allowed an additional review by the FAA, which is of course essential to make determinations with regard to wildlife attractants, height obstructions, and all the rest. So the interesting part of this is that is the first time we heard that a permit had been terminated. We filed July 14th with the FAA our application for a 7460 permit for review by the FAA. The FAA reviews it for every single concern these folks have made. Wildlife attractants, height, all of those environmental issues, whether it's an appropriate use there with the proximity to the airport, that is all within the FAA's purview. We went online and looked and in fact found the termination of our application, which had never been sent to us. On July 15th, totally unbeknownst to us, this termination letter issued. If you read it, you will note that the application was terminated because the airport authority owns the property. Our consultant, who we hired, who was an expert with regard to obtaining these permits, realized that the property was outside the gate or the fence proper of the airport. As I understand it, there's a fence that surrounds the actual runway area, but we own the property outside that gate. And therefore, on the application, he checked that this was not airport authority property by accident. And of course, it was airport authority property, and it was therefore, without notice to us, immediately terminated. But the same letter, the same notice expressly says that we may resubmit it, and it has been resubmitted. It was resubmitted yesterday. As soon as we learned that this had happened, we corrected the form that clearly indicated that it is the airport authority which owns the property, and it is now back in process, and the FAA will in fact conduct its review as it is required by law to do. The next slide shows you the location of the plant. Stay with me here, Kat. The next slide shows you the location of the plant. And the thing that jumps off the page to me about this particular slide, and incidentally, the gray and red structure on the right side of this plan is the actual rendering plan. The red structures to the left of it and closest to the runway are the actual water treatment plant elements. The blue or purple or other colored lines that are on that map were placed there by our consultant and reflect the area within which anything in terms of construction would be prohibited. Outside those lines, it is perfectly fair game to request the FAA review, and obviously we are outside of those lines. So that is what we submitted. That is what will in fact be investigated by the FAA. So the other thing that struck me about this photo is that the proposal for the light industrial development is actually not on this property. It is to the right of this property, above where the rendering plant was going to go. So ultimately, it is possible for both developments to proceed. And would that not be an even better benefit for everyone?
Yes.
Is that my client who just said that? Thanks, Mark. You're a big help. All right, with that said, let me show you a slide of some folks, or one person in particular from Iowa. In Iowa, one of these plants that is not operated by Pilgrims is in operation. It is actually a hog plant, but the process is the same. We have taken people from Etowah County and the city up to this plant to, again, watch, look, smell, sniff, all of that. And they came back, and I know at least some of them are willing to talk about how they would be accepting of this plan. So let me show you someone who lives in this city who, like these good folks here, had concerns. about a rendering plant coming into their city, and yet have learned that those concerns were not warranted. Can you play that tape, please?
Things I think are good. Our schools have grown. The businesses have grown. We have several new businesses here on Main Street. And I really think that with the rendering plant opening up and having all those jobs and bringing new people in town, it really, really helped expand things. My name is TJ Huntley, and I'm the owner of Huntley's Pit Stop. I started this business about a year ago, and there was a huge need here for family-style meals. I come from a family of 11, and my mom is from Kentucky, so everything has always been made from scratch. You know, I cook for the community and the folks that come in here like I cook for my own family. I think that's the secret to it. I put a lot of love, heart, and sweat and tears into what I do. The rendering plant, they come in for lunch. They get meals to go for their sick loved ones. They call, we deliver out there, you know. I really honestly think that I wouldn't have grown as rapidly as I did without that. When people do think about rendering plants, there was a lot of controversy in the beginning, you know, when they were going to come here. People were concerned about the smell, but honestly, I've only seen the benefit. I don't think that the rendering plant has caused any type of odor in Eagle Grove. It is a beautiful place, and it's enabled me to open up job avenues for 4 or 5 other people here locally. I've got a full-time baker now. I've got seating in my dining room, and my sales, honestly, moving over here, we've tripled. I actually funded my business from working out there. I was there for several months in the process of starting up my business. They pay very well, and they take very good care of their employees. The job that I had at the rendering plant, it enabled me to follow my dream and open up my own business. It was a great job. We've opened up several businesses just in the last 6 months here. And we've grown and we've expanded. So, I mean, it's just proof that the rendering plant has helped our community and will continue to grow. It's not always what you hear. It's really not always what you hear. I think Eagle Grove is a prime example of the positive that you can see from a rendering plant. It helps your town grow. It helps your schools. It helps your small businesses. It helps your community. I just don't see anything negative at all in being here whatsoever.
We did not, I assure you, pay for that slide to be made in any shape, form, or fashion, just like we haven't paid anything to you fine folks to consider this application, and just like we haven't paid the city of Gadsden to consider this application, or the IDA. That was an honest opinion that was issued by this woman who lives in a city with a rendering plant with the technology that we have. The following slides demonstrate similar comments. Some of them appeared in conjunction with the South Carolina plant that I visited and was actually shown on CBS 42 in January. I apologize for the Gamecocks mask. But there are also comments here from other South Carolina and Iowa representatives as well. So, next slide, please. When we come to a jurisdiction, we do invest in its people and the community in which we are located. At this point in time, to date, with the plants that we already have in Alabama, we have given $1.585 million in philanthropic gifts through what is called our Hometown Strong program. In every jurisdiction in which we go, we meet with local officials, local volunteers, what have you, and find out what the need is in that jurisdiction that we could perhaps help with. That resulted, for example, during COVID, in funding the building of a $71,400 outside dining area for the Russellville City Schools. We were asked to do that because with COVID, folks were worried about the kids congregating in the cafeteria, wanted to be able to still have them have lunch, so we built this outside facility to enable that. We also donated more than $300,000 in Russellville for a splash pad for children, and we donated $1.7 million in servings of, $1.7 million servings of food due to COVID during 2020. Overall, our total contributions nationally are $70 million. The next slide, please. We also offer some benefits to employees, which we think would be very valuable at this point in time. All Pilgrim's employees are eligible for a free 2-year college degree. If the employee doesn't want to take advantage of that, it can be passed on to a child. So an associate's degree can be obtained locally, since we have the community college here, by virtue of that program. The plant's starting wage is $16.40. That is above minimum wage, as I'm sure you are aware. And as I said, the average wage actually is over $22 an hour, and that is in your bid package. That does not include salaried management positions. Additionally, as a matter of course, we provide college scholarships annually throughout the community. How do our wages compare? Next slide, please. We pay $2 more an hour than choice fabricators. We pay $1.50 to $3.50 more than ZLA Solutions, and we are $5 more than Etowah. I am not criticizing these plants in any way by making that comparison. They were all documented as to what the source was, but we are in a competitive position and able to do more in terms of paying our employees. We are also very proud of employee retention. Next slide. Actually, we have an 85% retention rate with an average seniority of 13.9 years, which is pretty much unheard of in the poultry industry. And the reason I think we have that is because we have retrofitted these plants with this cleaner technology that makes it tolerable to work there. Will we hire locally? Absolutely. We will hold job fairs here. We will try to recruit here. Anyone who is interested in a job at the facility or as a trucker is more than welcome to apply, and I suspect we can give them some kind of priority consideration in the event that they do that without discriminating against anyone, of course, but nonetheless offering that opportunity. So let's talk about the technology. Next slide, please. I wanted to show you some of the technology that is now in the plants we're retrofitting and that will be in this plant that we build in Gadsden. And the first and most important one in this series is our receiving bay. We have been telling you that we do not keep trucks on the yard. We do not dump trucks on the yard, and I'll talk about the trucks in a little bit. And in fact, what we do is we pull them completely into an enclosed building. You see the bins on the left side in the left picture. Those bins are capped with a lid. That lid gets lifted. The various different products go in different bins. So feathers go one place, offal goes another. From that point forward, that material is no longer exposed to air. It is not going on a conveyor belt that goes through the plant. It is not coming down a slurry field. Until the final product, that powdery substance that we actually produce, comes out at the end of the grinding process, that is the first time that it sees air. And that is why we are able to keep our plant so clean. This is an operating plant. This one actually happens to be in Australia. But it is a plant that has been in operation since 2016, and you can see that in terms of cleanliness within the plant, it is similar to food grade production. Hammer mill with duct collection, not sure I can exactly explain to you what that does, but I can tell you whatever is going to it is in those tubes and not on open conveyor systems. Next slide, please. This is our grinding room. Ultimately, when you're trying to get the product down into that meal that then gets put into the animal food, you actually shake it. We heard some of that, saw some of that in the plant we visited on Tuesday. And it is a huge machine which does that and then ultimately drops out to be bagged and actually taken off site. Next slide is the conventional cooker, all done internally. More cookers on the next page. Stay with me, Kevin. And then our feather dryer. And then the next page is more of the technology. We have looked around the world. That way, sorry. We have looked around the world to determine what technology should be fitted together to go into the future plants that Pilgrim's Pride intends to operate. And in doing that, we have been able to locate plants which have used, again, internationally, products from all over the world, and we are committed to providing those here so that this plant will operate from a technologically safe standpoint, and more importantly, one which will not cause a negative impact, whether it be on property values, which I will discuss in a moment, or wildlife attractant, or whatever else it might be. So let's talk about turkey vultures, one of my least favorite topics. We have seen, well, I'm sure everyone in this room has seen pictures in the Gadsden Times that I believe were taken by an editorialist by the name of John Floyd, who apparently went to visit a relative back in the spring and took pictures at a Gastonia plant, Gastonia, North Carolina, that showed a large, I don't know what you call it, covey, birder, whatever it is for turkey buzzards, a ball of them around the plant, and then separately saw them on the plant roof. Those photos were not taken near a pet food ingredient facility, much less one with our technology. To the contrary, the plant that had this technology, that was operating as a rendering plant, has ceased operation and ceased operation in April of 2019. Next slide, please. These are the pictures you may recall seeing. And the next page is the North Carolina Division of Air Quality report that issued in November of 2020, which demonstrated that the facility had in fact been taken offline on August 3rd of 2019. What is now on that site is a waste transfer facility. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that, but a lot of times when you collect large amounts of garbage, you actually bring them into a central location, deposit them onto a floor, you recycle some of it, and then the rest gets properly disposed of in a landfill. It is completely open. This particular facility is being used to collect restaurant waste of all kinds, as well as grocery waste. So the chicken, the beef, whatever that you and I don't buy in our grocery store is what this plant collects. It is collected in open trucks, it is dumped into other open trucks, and it is then carted off the plant. That's what those pictures reflect, not the operation of a rendering plant. So let's talk about rendering plants and airports and whether in fact this is a good fix or a match for your airport, which obviously has to be your primary consideration here. I went back and looked at a number of rendering plants as well as airports to see if there were other rendering plants in similar proximity which the FAA has in fact approved. And there are, and one's as close as Montgomery, Maxwell Air Force Base, which presumably has every bit as much of a military commitment as Gadsden does, has a rendering plant within a half mile. There have been no reports of bird strikes, there have been no problems reported, the FAA allowed the plant to locate there. So that one's pretty close. The next one is the Amarillo Airport, Rick Husband Amarillo Airport. This one is also a rendering plant, which is within 1/2 mile of the end of the runway, and that is a international airport. So that is big jets flying into that runway right there. And that plant, as you notice, has the same kind of wastewater treatment facilities that we would. You can see the tanks. And there was no problem from the FAA, and it is in fact allowed there. The next one is the Gainesville Regional Airport, close to me in Georgia. Gainesville is one of the poultry capitals of the world, and certainly is in Georgia. And there are again, I don't know the name, bevy, concentration, whatever it is, of actual production plants from all of the big ones, Tyson, Marjack, Pilgrims, etc., that are literally a couple of blocks from that airport. Now, that is a plant where you're growing chickens, and you are killing chickens, and there is an odor, would be likely to attract birds. And yet, they were allowed, and the Gainesville airport is in fact functioning. The last one I included in this series is Little Rock, Arkansas, and I did this purely to emphasize the wastewater treatment facility. This is actually, as you can see, the airport. And the entire Little Rock, so the city wastewater treatment plant, is located between the two runways and is actually on a river, which also circles that airport. And that wastewater treatment plant, which in miniature is what we will be operating on our plant, functions fine, has been approved by the FAA, and has not caused an interference with that airport's operation. So my point is that these things can coexist. I would fully expect you to reach that conclusion, and if you don't, then certainly turn down our offer. But consider the fact that the two are not inherently incongruous when you are considering our bid. The next picture is actually a little bit out of order because it really deals more with water pollution, but this is a picture I really like, first of all, because it is Portugal, the Mediterranean is beautiful, but secondly, because there is a rendering plant within 1,500 square feet on the water of a beach in Portugal, which is the site of an annual competition for world surfing. And that plant has coexisted peacefully with that annual operation for years. Incidentally, it is Harslev technology, which you saw in the pictures, that we intend to use. So again, an identical comparison. But what happens if, notwithstanding our best intentions, there comes a bird problem? Or the FAA or your consultants determine there might be a bird problem? Is that a dead stop? No, it is not. Mr. Harden, who is among the group who is opposing this particular plant, testified at a hearing on a preliminary injunction in May of 21 that airports around the world spend tens of thousands of dollars annually to mitigate birds and wildlife. There are systems which your consultants could require, you can require, the FAA can require, which we have already budgeted for in case they are required, to be placed around our plant. My mistaken reference to lasers is inappropriate there. We actually don't use lasers. We will use whatever the FAA requires, but there are randomized sizes which are random and altered in pitch so that they mimic a bird of prey that would be contrary to the type of turkey vulture, for example, which if it is attracted to the airport, would scare them away. I would also point out to you folks, and you know this, there is a cattle feed operation at the tail end of the same runway. It has true feed out there, hence the name cattle feed operation, which would exactly be the type of debris that would attract birds. Yet you have operated this airport successfully, notwithstanding that location. It looks to be about a couple hundred feet south of the same runway that we would like to locate south of. And finally, I would point you to the next slide, which is the National Guard's position. Again, I am certainly aware that given that there is military use of this property, just like there is in Maxwell, that anything that we created on this property likely to interfere with that would be a reason that you should certainly not consider our offer. And in January, someone at the the Alabama National Guard actually issued a letter saying that the National Guard objected to this rendering plan. It was not somebody real high up, but it was enough in an official letterhead that that was in fact posted and I think brought to the attention of the city, if not the airport authority. And in actuality, that letter was unauthorized. And the Major General of the Alabama National Guard has in fact confirmed that notwithstanding the location of the plant, they have absolutely no opposition to it, period. And that would be the organization which would be likely most to be affected or object if there was indeed going to be a problem. So let's move on to water treatment. That's a particularly important issue given that problems have occurred in Alabama before. We all know about the Hampsville-Tyson plant fish kill a number of years ago. And I would like to emphasize to you again that when you're talking about that kind of situation, which many of these good folks have, you are comparing apples to oranges. Hampsville is what is called a direct discharge system, which means that whatever comes out of that rendering plant in terms of wastewater is supposed to be treated to a sufficient degree of cleanliness that it can be released directly into the river that it adjoins. We aren't. We're going into the city sewer system. We will have pretreatment on site, much the same that Hampsville is supposed to have, but we will not discharge directly into this river. And in fact, are going above and beyond what is required legally in terms of us controlling what happens on that site in terms of runoff. We actually design, let me back up a second. When you've got a rendering plant, you got a lot of hard surface. In impervious surface, parking areas for the trucks before they leave, parking areas for customers, just the flat surfaces of the buildings themselves. It's a lot of surface, and therefore, when it rains, there will be rain collecting on those surfaces. We have I can't remember genuinely off the top of my head what the size of the area is that we have identified as the impervious surface. But we have designed for it in terms of stormwater controls so that we can handle up to 1.6 inches of rainfall over a 3-day period by taking that water directly off the concrete, putting it into a temporary sedimentation control basin, and then sending it right back into our water treatment system so that it then will be clean when it is discharged to the city sewer system. And what that means effectively is that you are catching any potential other source of a discharge that could be harmful by virtue of, think of it like almost as a basket. You're building a basket around your plant, you're catching the water, the basket shoots it into a holding area, which in turn shoots it back through the pretreatment system. We do not have lagoons on site except for stormwater detention. We do not have direct discharge, and we fully treat with an on-site lab all water that comes off of our building. This problem should not exist in terms of impact as potentially happened at Hansville. Although, to be fair, we all I'm sure watched as Hansville burned a couple of weeks ago and wondered what in the world that was going to do with the river that it directly joins. And I was really pleased to watch, and also because of all the water that was being put onto the fire from the fire trucks, I thought, oh my gosh, what's going to happen with that? Is that just going to hit the plant, pick up stuff, run off into the river, and in and of itself be a problem? And what I noted expressly, and I'm hoping you saw these photos, it was a drone photo that was out there for a while, is the water was being picked up behind the plant by a large retaining wall, and was collected and diverted to a stormwater detention pond. It worked. And as a consequence, ADAM reported after that fire that there was no discharge into the river as a consequence of it. I think that's an important thing to keep in mind, and the engineer who designed that wall at Hansville is the engineer who is designing our plant. So let's talk about property values. I understand the fear. I think I obviously have a genetic defect because I've been representing developers of real property for quite some time now, and it's not exactly a wonderful task all the time. And every time you try to put something on an undeveloped piece of property, people complain about traffic, they complain about property values going down. It's a constant litany of, I think, what are legitimate concerns. But in this instance, because of the way that we are going to be functioning, I submit to you respectfully that it is not. And the next slide demonstrates, for example, the impact of an animal feed plant on property values in Forsyth County, Georgia. We have this nice residential home and a plant that has been there for quite some time. And although it's 1.8 miles by road, it's only 1,500 feet as the crow flies, so presumably if you're going to smell it, you're going to be able to smell it because that's close. And if it's going to impact your property values, it would impact them because it's close. And yet the assessed value of the property increased from $281,000 and change in 2011, 10 years later to $389,000. So a 33% some odd increase. Same is true of a home located elsewhere in the same general vicinity in Forsyth County. This one, again, was 1,500 feet by, as the crow flies, and a slightly longer distance by road, and the assessed value jumped over the 10-year period from $263,000 to $353,000. If it's designed poorly, if it smells, no, you're not going to want to live near it, and you're not going to realize probably the value for your home you would like to. If it is designed properly, it is something which should not have an impact. So the last bit of, well, that's not quite true, but a little bit more, but let's talk about why this plan is critical. I didn't understand this. 2/3 of a broiler chicken is suitable for human consumption. So if you think about a chicken and then they cut it up, you get the breast, the legs, whatever else that goes into the grocery store or goes to Chick-fil-A so that we can all eat chicken sandwiches. But the remaining 1/3 is still left and must be disposed of. Before rendering came along, they were disposed of in landfills, which is a major problem for a couple of reasons. One is that we are rapidly running out of landfill space in this country. And if rendering is not allowed and these plants are forced to go to landfills, as I understand it, or the parts are forced to go to landfills, A, by the end of 4 years, we won't be eating any more chicken because there won't be any space left. And B, in terms of the environmental impacts, it is considerably worse because you have these rotting chicken carcasses that do have all the negative problems that you just heard about in a landfill with greenhouse gases escaping from them, and it is a considerably more deleterious impact than if you are in fact rendering. The other problem that you've got here, and this is emphasized by the Hanceville experience, Hanceville is I didn't know this, and it is the largest rendering plant in the United States. It services, I think, 10 to 13, 17. It services 17 processing plants. And there's one other rendering plant in South Alabama which services one. Hanceville goes down. The growers that are sending their chickens to Hanceville go down with them. They'll have to start killing chickens. They will have to start disposing of chickens. They will not be able to continue operation. And as I understand it, Hanceville has been told that it must rebuild. I am not suggesting that we would be substituting in from Hanceville, but what I am suggesting is that it is important to build redundancy into the chicken processing industry, which is so critical to the entire state of Alabama, but especially in Etowah County. You saw some of it, I think, after Hanceville. There were a couple of days where it was not operational at all, and growers started killing flocks. It is what's the word I'm looking at? I can't think of it, but it's a rolling impact in terms of what happens with the industry. So, last couple of issues. Will the plant create a malodor? We do not believe so. In addition to the technology I've shared with you, there's a real important one, and that is called negative air pressure. When you open a door at Pilgrim's plant, you really have to tug it open because the air is being sucked into the plant. And I do mean tug. And as a consequence, the odors that might be inside the plant do not escape it and do not come in. So that is an additional area in which we have committed to provide treatment that keeps the building air inside the plant. The building air itself is treated before release. It goes through scrubbers so that once the negative pressure pulls it in, or keeps it from coming out, then whatever is inside the plant that's relative to our process itself is treated. And trucks drive, as I pointed out to you, with the technology inside the plant. Before they dump, they are completely cleaned after they dump, and they then go back out and are driven off the lot. Will our waterways be impaired? I talked about that to some degree, but one of the points that I would like to make is that the places where there have been serious incidents with regard to water quality impacts from rendering have almost all involved ammonia, chlorine, or liquid nitrogen. This plant uses none of those in this process, nor does it create them. As I said, we are not directly discharging into the Coosa River. We will have an on-site lab for monitoring, and we will hire an independent certified lab to check our levels to ensure compliance. Which data will be made available? You can watch us. We will be happy for you to do that. So that brings me, I think, to my major area of last note, and that is how is our product transported? And we have all seen trucks with live chickens on them. We have all seen trucks that have spilled. We have probably, many of us, experienced what happens when you are following a truck like that and what the impact is upon your olfactory senses. But we believe that we are employing a slightly different process here, and let me straighten out some numbers too. It's been tossed around that we're going to have 120 trucks a day, 60 trucks a day, 48 trucks a day, et cetera, et cetera. The real numbers are these. We anticipate having 48 trucks to deliver every day in terms of the product that is coming in to be processed. We stagger those deliveries so that we have sufficient ability to dump, clean, and get off the yard in time. so that we're not stacking things up in the yard. We only collect, and this is true of any rendering facility, that kind of product within a reasonable 2-hour radius from the plant. And the reason for that is that the less deteriorated the chicken is, it is better for our processes. There is more protein in the chicken, which becomes usable in our end product, the fresher we get the chicken. So we have a limited geographic area, and we will have within that geographic area, which I believe is Chattanooga to the north, Billerica to the, Russellville,
Gunnersville, Carroll.
What he said. So we will be servicing that area around which there should be reasonable access within a 2-hour period, which also ensures that the product that's on the road, quite frankly, is not sticky because it has not had time. And I know summer is hot, and I know there are accidents, and they happen. But we are doing everything in our power to make sure that there will be a minimal impact, and it behooves us to do that in that manner because it is economically beneficial to us to get them there quickly, get them off quickly, and to do it in a manner in which we continue to operate. And I am not finished with that slide. These are samples of the trucks that we will use. The round ones, I don't want to get all this graphic, but there are liquids associated with the product, and those are delivered generally in round trucks, which are completely enclosed and are often refrigerated. And then the top truck is the kind of dumping apparatus that we use. It is high, very high off the ground. It is covered by a tarp. You back into the building, the tarp gets rolled back. The end of the truck actually lowers down, which is what allows it to dump into those bins that I talked to you about earlier. And then it is cleaned inside the building before it ever goes back in the yard. And that is true too of anything which contains any liquid. We actually own these trucks. So it is our responsibility to maintain them and to keep control over them. We may employ third-party drivers, or we may employ our own drivers if there are people who want to do that for us. But we actually own them, and we work with whoever is providing the trucks to make sure that that staggered delivery system is used. So 48 of those in. There will then be other trucks that come in with other products. I mean, our normal cleaning supplies, whatever supplies are needed to operate in the plant. We think there probably could be up to 60 trucks a day, but 48 of them in terms of what is being delivered in terms of product. And then going back out is clean. It's either dry goods that have been, or materials or what have you that have been delivered to the plant where there wasn't any cleaning required, or it is the trucks that have backed into the building and have been cleaned before they even go back out on the yard. So most, we believe, in terms of what we would call vehicle trips in and out, is 60 a day, 48 of which would be product in, clean, coming out. I don't envy your role here at all, but I have a suggestion which will make it easier. Let the FAA do its job. Let your consultants do their job. And see if they will verify what I have told you in terms of an absence of negative impact upon the airport. Let ADEM do its job. Let them see if they agree that we can control things such as water issues and air pollution. And then, if you get that satisfaction, provided you look at qualified offers of both groups, if you are in agreement that this Pilgrim's plan is workable here, let us develop both. There is room to do it. That other plan is accommodated on other airport property. That is an even bigger win for you. Thank you very much. Thanks, Mark.
Well, thank you, Kathy and Pilgrim's Pride. That concludes the second of the two presentations for today. Before we adjourn the meeting, I want to make just a couple of brief announcements. I'm sorry so many have left, but I hope you can spread the word about some of the announcements as they relate to next week. I want to remind everybody the Gadsden Airport Authority has a follow-up meeting 1 week from today, August the 27th, here at the same space, here at the venue in this same room. The same ground rules will apply about masks and socially distanced seating. The meeting will start at noon and the public will be invited to participate at that time. The meeting will end no later than 5 o'clock. The Gadsden Airport Authority wants to specifically invite Pilgrim's Pride and the Etowah Community Group to have representatives at that meeting to field questions from the public. There's no requirement that you do so. We're simply asking you to consider doing so you can field questions from the public if there are questions for you from the public. The Gadsden Airport Authority members will not field questions at the meeting next week. There will be a sign-up sheet posted before Friday's meeting next week for anyone who wants to speak. It'll be posted right outside the door that you came in on either a chair or a table. And anyone who wants to be heard at that time needs to sign up on this sign-up sheet before the meeting begins at noon. The sign-up sheet will provide a 5-minute slot for each person. That person is free to make comments, that person is free to ask questions, or both. All we ask is that you please fashion your time so that if you ask questions, the question and the answer will take no more than 5 minutes so we can try to keep on some schedule. Speakers will be called in the order they sign up. The sign-up sheet will have specific slots starting at noon going till, I think, 4:50, and they will be called in the order they sign up. The sign-up sheet will be posted outside the door at least 1 hour before the meeting begins at noon. And when the meeting begins at noon, the sign-up sheet will be closed. Again, on behalf of the Gadsden Airport Authority, I want to thank you all for being here today. And at this time, I'm going to turn it back over to Mr. Billingsley to entertain a motion to go into executive session.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn for executive session? So moved and second. All in favor? The meeting is adjourned.
Let me make one legal statement on behalf of the Gadsden Airport Authority. Now that we're going into executive session, pursuant to Alabama Code Section 36-25A, subsections A3 and A6, as the attorney for the Gadsden Airport Authority, it's my opinion that this executive session will be for the purpose of discussing with the board's attorneys the legal ramifications of and the legal options for pending litigation, as well as to discuss the possible sale or lease of property. I'm advising the board that if any deliberation begins about what action to take relating to pending or threatened litigation based on the advice of counsel, the executive session should be concluded and the deliberation shall be conducted in the open portion for the meeting, or the deliberation shall cease. Thank you all for being here today.
All right, guys, that's going to do it. So we will get more information up on the website there at advancedetowah.com/community plan. May take a little bit this afternoon or tomorrow morning to get all of our information up there, but thanks for watching, and let's grow Etowah.